I know you're disappointed that it's just Bitch Blake again doing some more bitch work, but that's because Bitch Pop still isn't back in town, and I gotta do something to entertain you guys. You remember last week I asked all you guys to submit your picks for the top 10 episodes of Year 3, but instead of just doing a crummy-ass clip show, I decided to do something special for you guys. As one of my favorite YouTubers, Shoe on Head, likes to say, Buzzfeed is the internet equivalent of ass cancer. I like to think of them as a herpes outbreak on the prolapsed anus of American culture myself. Seriously, this site has to be the biggest social justice warrior circle jerk on the internet outside of Tumblr. Their political leanings are transparent, their logic is non-existent, and to try to apply rational thought to any of their content is like investigating a muck-spreading hippopotamus with a magnifying glass. At the end of the day, you get too close to it, it's horrible, it stinks, and all you do is wind up covered in shit. But I am going to brave the storm and risk contamination of my eye sockets by taking the infamous Check Your Privilege quiz, just for you. I have not read this thing, I have no idea what the questions are. What you will see will be my genuine reaction to just what is one of many soul-crushing, logically bankrupt, and intellectually vapid creations to yet come out of the SJW movement.
I kill my kids!
So don't ever say I didn't give you anything, you mother fornicators. Let's do this shit. Yeah! Alright, here we go. No idea how many fucking questions. Oh my god! Are you kidding me? Holy shit! I've never been divorced, I've never been to family court, and I'm not gay, so I haven't been f***ed in the poop hole like Pop. But I'm pretty sure I could narrow this entire quiz down to 2 questions. 1, do you have a lot of money? And 2, do you have a vagina? If you answered yes to both of those questions, congratulations! You have an automatic get-out-of-jail-free card.
Check off all the statements that apply to you. I am white.
Yes, I am a human reflector when I work at weddings. Thank you so much.
I have never been discriminated against because of my skin color.
Why, yes, I have, actually. If you are a white male in this country, you have been discriminated against because of your skin color.
You're f***ing a white male!
I have never been the only person of my race in a room.
What?
I have never been mocked for my accent.
Very good.
I have never been told that I am attractive for my race.
Does being pretty fly for a white guy count?
I have never been a victim of violence because of my race.
I used to live in Oak Park, Michigan. Believe me, I have been a victim of violence because of my race.
I have never been called a racial slur.
Anyone who says they've never been called a racial slur just because they're a cis white male is a fucking liar. Edit that out.
I have never been told I sound white.
Is this the whole voice on the phone thing? Whatever. I'm whiter than the driven snow. What the f would I know?
A stranger has never asked to touch my hair or asked if it is real.
First of all, that's creepy. Second of all, what?
On the dating websites, if you make those kissy faces, you know, and there's a bunch of lines, or the duck faces and there's a bunch of lines, you smoke cigarettes and you probably smoke pole. And when he kisses you, he's getting 31 flavors. Upper decking the tank. And that's where you defecate in the tank above the toilet.
Oh my God! Frank! Did you do this? You're an asshole. Don't give me that look. I know you did this. This is your MO, man. Med shitter.
I am heterosexual. I have never lied about my sexuality.
You would rather super glue your asshole shut than take this quiz.
I never doubted my parents' acceptance of my sexuality.
We could take all of these questions, there's a million of these frickin' questions that all have to do with sexuality, and just boil it down to a simple point. Are you gay? No! Sorry, I'm not sorry. Suck it up, Buttercup.
I've never been called a fag.
If you've been on the internet for 3 seconds and you have a YouTube channel, you've been called a fag.
I have never been called a dyke.
Not to my knowledge. Okay, I'll give you that one.
I have never been called a fairy or any other derogatory slur for homosexuals.
And yes, I have been called a fairy. I was accused of being gay all the time when I was in school. Because, you know, that's just the default insult for prepubescent morons with no imagination. And feminists.
I have never tried to hide my sexuality.
Ugh, Department of Redundancy, Department. What the f fuck is this?
I am always comfortable with PDA with my partner in public.
I guess it just depends on what kind of PDA you're talking about. Hugs and kisses? Most people are comfortable with that. It doesn't matter whether or not you're an XY crosswire, a transsexual, red, white, blue, or black. It doesn't matter. Now, if you're talking about getting a BJ in a seedy bathroom stall of a club with techno music pumping in the background, that's a completely different story. I'm not comfortable with that. I don't want the herpesgynosyphilades, thank you very much.
I have never pretended to be just friends with my significant other.
We're still on the exact same subject, and all of this stuff could have been condensed into about 3 questions. Instead, we're on like question 12 or 13 of this shit.
I have never been ostracized by my religion for my sexual orientation.
So now we're gonna bring religion into it, right? Well, not specifically religion. Christian religion, the inherent shame that comes with being a homosexual, despite the fact that overall tolerance of homosexuality in all sects of Christianity, even assholes like the Jehovah's Witnesses, is on the incline. We can't bring Islam into it because they can quite literally get away with murder, and they'll just blame it on Republicans and guns.
How can you explain the fact that the media still pushes feminism down your throat when only 1 in 5 women actually identify as a feminist? Because that rhetoric is critical in increasing government reliance.
Thank you, government, for being my kid's daddy, and thank you for putting me on.
This whole slut walk thing is a way to stand up against men with your tits hanging out. Are we really gonna complain? Hell no. I'll always go look at some fun bags, no matter how low they droop. If it was me, I'd walk through the crowd, eat my popcorn, occasionally rip off some tape, because I want to free that nipple.
I have never been told that I would burn in hell for my sexual orientation.
As you can see, we're focusing just on Christian bigotry here.
I have never been told that my sexuality is just a phase. I have never been violently threatened because of my sexuality.
No, I've never been violently threatened because of my real sexuality, but because of the assumed sexuality that a bunch of high school jocks thought that I had just because I wasn't interested in dating a bunch of materialistic f***wits.
I am a man.
What the f*** am I doing? Why am I here? Am I even halfway done with this? Oh, God! Yes, I am. What does this have to do with anything? Kiss my ass!
I feel comfortable in the gender I was born as.
Why am I could be out doing something good with my life. I could be out traveling the world or inventing something that could be used to make people happy. I could be whacking off into Kleenex and mailing them to Lena Dunham just because she's an idiot. Just to trigger her stupid fat ass. It would be amazing, but no, instead I'm doing this shit.
I still identify as the gender I was born in.
Yeah, I do, because spoiler alert, there's only 2 genders.
I have never tried to change my gender.
Again, spoiler alert, you can't do that. It's called cosmetic surgery. Just ask Bruce.
I have never been denied an opportunity because of my gender.
Actually, yes, I have. It's called affirmative action. You might want to look into it.
I make more money than my professional counterparts of a different gender.
And now we're gonna bring the wage gap into it. Oh. Yeah.
The wage gap is simply the average earnings of men and women working full-time. It does not count for different job positions, hours worked, or different jobs. It has nothing to do with the same job. It has nothing to do with discrimination.
I haven't been this steeped in mythology since the last time I had to read a short story about unicorns.
I have never felt unsafe because of my gender.
Ever gone walking through Detroit at 2 o'clock in the morning?
I have never been catcalled. I have never been sexually harassed or assaulted.
Yes, because being sexually harassed or sexually assaulted is the same thing. Yay, feminism. I have been sexually harassed. It's called being a wedding videographer and sharing a dance floor with about 3 dozen slewers with their mouths open who are all jealous that they don't get to wear the white dress, so they want some white on their dress.
I have never been raped.
Does the college bookstore count?
I know you think this is a positive thing if you get what you want all the time, but if you use this too much and too often, and with the wrong guy, probably catch yourself a bad case, a cross-eyed beatdown, just saying. Especially if you come home with herpesgynosyphilades. Dudes, I'm not saying you should hit her, and I don't condone that. But I understand. This might sound a little racist, but nobody likes naggers. And Mr. Jenner was married 3 times to some choice pieces of ass. And he got 6 fornication trophies out of it. He hit that box like it owed him money. They were the hub in the Richard salad, and he was tossing that shit. Can you take this salad back? It seems to be swamped in ranch dressing.
I work in a salaried job.
Isn't that something that you work for? Kind of like merit-based scholarships, which everybody likes to say are so overwhelmingly racist, despite the fact that they're merit-based scholarships.
My family and I have never lived below the poverty line.
Considering that's a line that's been creeping higher and higher up the financial ladder, there's fewer and fewer people who are going to be answering yes to that question.
I have never gone to bed hungry.
How hungry are we talking? Are we talking like emaciated Ethiopian kids? Or are we talking haven't had a Big Mac since yesterday?
I have never been homeless.
No, actually, I've never been homeless, but you know who makes up over 80% of the homeless? Dudes. And you know who makes up over 1/3 of the homeless? Veterans. That whole white cis male privilege is working out phenomenal for them.
My parents pay some of my bills.
No.
My parents pay all of my bills.
I am not Paris Hilton.
I don't rely on public transportation.
No, I don't, and I feel sorry for you sumbitches who do. Because anybody who has ever ridden on a smart bus sure don't feel like it.
I buy new clothes at least once a month.
What am I, a chick?
I have never done my taxes myself.
No, I don't. It's called being self-employed, and trust me, every April, it sure as hell doesn't feel like a privilege.
I have never felt poor.
I've been to college, and I've been to the college bookstore. Yep, felt poor.
I've never had to worry about making rent.
I think everybody's had to worry about making rent, unless there's some kind of halfway hooker or a sex worker, and they make their money on the nightstand. I mean, whatever works for you.
I have never worked as a waiter, barista, bartender, or salesperson.
Now this one, I can actually agree with. If you have never waited tables in your life, you have no idea how hard it is. It is one of the most thankless jobs that I have ever done. It teaches you real appreciation and disdain for human nature.
This job would be great if it wasn't for the f***ing customers.
I have had an unpaid internship.
That doesn't sound like privilege, that sounds like hell.
I went to summer camp.
I never had a circle jerk either. Does that count?
I went to private school.
No.
I graduated high school. Really?
So giving a damn about your education is a privilege.
I went to an elite college.
Who says what's an elite college? It's kind of like the definition of a mass shooting. Nobody can seem to agree on it.
I graduated college.
And I'm paying out the ass for student loans for a degree that I don't use. Privilege.
My parents paid at least some of my tuition.
No.
I had a car in high school.
No, and nobody would let me use their car to get an awkward hand job in the back seat either.
I've never had a roommate.
I thought everybody had roommates, and if you haven't, what are you doing?
I've always had cable.
Actually, I just got rid of my cable, so I can answer no to that question. Suck it.
I have traveled internationally.
Yeah, technically, Canada's another country, but really? Does it really count? Really?
I have traveled internationally at least once a year.
No.
I studied abroad.
No, you need money for that kind of thing. You need actual privilege for that kind of thing, because there's really only two types of privilege that exist.
I never skipped a meal to save money.
Skipped a meal just to skip a meal, because I don't care.
I don't know what Sally Mae is.
After the housing bubble, you're really going to tell me that there are people out there who don't know what Sally Mae is? Then again, there are teenagers who thought Titanic was just a movie.
Mental fog. I'm going to show you exactly what this looks like. Huh? I literally, I stand in front of like formations of dudes and I'll be like, and I'll see that one dude in the back like, I'll be, come here, you. Come here. And I really don't get it, because these people, they're not really fighting for anything. They're not fighting for free speech. They're not fighting for equality. They're fighting for a space where they can sit on their thumb and switch it every once in a while, because they're a bunch of pussies.
You've never gone ass to mouth.
You never go ass to mouth.
I've never gone ass to mouth.
I spent spring breaks abroad.
No, I spent spring breaks at work. Thank you very much.
I have frequent flyer miles.
No.
My parents are heterosexual.
Most of us are not born in vitro. Last I checked.
My parents are both alive.
No, and thank you for reopening that old wound. I'm gonna go cry into my privileged tissues.
I do not have any physical disabilities.
I will say that I am blessed to not have any physical disabilities. Privileged? I don't know about that.
I do not have any social disabilities.
You mean having a maladapted psyche because your mother dumped you in a daycare and didn't spend time with you while she was out riding the cock carousel?
I do not have any learning disabilities.
No, I don't. And again, nothing that anybody has any control over, so how is that a privilege?
I have never had an eating disorder.
And that means that we're gonna get into the body shaming stuff, isn't it?
I have never been depressed. I have never considered suicide.
Yes, I have.
I have never attempted suicide.
Yeah, whatever.
I have never taken medication for my mental health.
Yes, I have. Xanax and a bottle of wine is winning every day in my book, and apparently it makes me very good at video games.
I have never been told I am overweight or too skinny.
I graduated high school at 130 pounds. I had a neck like E.T. and an Adam's apple that looked like I swallowed a small boulder. So yes.
I have never been shamed for my body type.
And now we're going to get into the whole feminists and fat acceptance and body positivity BS. Oh God, I'd rather rip all the hairs out of my scrotum with a roll of duct tape I bought at a Hobby Lobby.
Because there's a big difference between being body positive and then being positive you're gonna die by 45. What we have now are the stats that she's released to the public, and not the ones I believe her doctor is giving her. You should probably lose weight because you're going to die.
Why are you fat shaming me? I'm happy with my body.
And I'm sure all the other whales in the oceans are happy.
That just means you don't give a fuck.
You got me.
I consider myself to be physically attractive.
No. Nah, whatever. I'm an ugly motherfucker. I accept that.
I can afford a therapist.
A good one? Probably not.
I've used prescription drugs recreationally.
Now that is a winning in my book.
I've never had an addiction.
Anyone who's ever had crazy slot C has experienced the feeling of addiction. But if you're talking about alcohol, drugs, and what have you, no.
I have never been shamed for my religious beliefs.
Of course I've been shamed for my religious beliefs. I grew up Catholic.
I have never been violently threatened for my religious beliefs.
Me personally, no. I've never had to bake a cake I didn't want to.
There is a place of worship for my religion in my town.
Yes, there's also a mosque about a mile from my house.
I have never lied about my ethnicity as a self-defense.
I find this one really funny. I mean, could you imagine Al Sharpton walking into the IRS office to finally pay his taxes, and he's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I don't know where you get this black stuff.
I have never lied about my religion as a self-defense.
Is this more Islamophobic shit? It is, isn't it? Maybe if the founder of your religion wasn't a hateful, warmongering, wife-beating, pedophile piece of shit, you wouldn't have to lie about it in self-defense.
All my jobs have been accommodating of my religious practices.
Is there a particular religious practice that you need to drop everything in the middle of a workday and go do?
I am not nervous in airport security lines.
Everyone is nervous in airport security lines ever since they created that new scanner that can see through your clothes and shit. I'm not ashamed of what I got, but I don't need 6 security guards who haven't been laid in 8 months seeing it. I have never heard this statement.
You have been randomly selected for secondary passport control.
Considering I haven't traveled internationally except to Canada, no, I haven't.
I have never been called a terrorist.
No, I haven't. Haven't you heard? White people never get labeled as terrorists in this country. Oh, wait.
I'm guilty of this myself. Because up here in Michigan, women like to run around in the spring, and I'll go by and give a little honk. What the hell am I doing? Especially with my daughters in the backseat slapping me in the back of the neck going, "You're being an asshole, Dad!" When it comes to that, I fully admit being an asshole. The difference between a feminist and a dude is simply this. The dudes will admit they're being assholes. And since I've admitted I'm an asshole, which is basically the first step of recovery, why don't you feminists come out and just admit you're a bunch of cunts?
Nobody has ever tried to save me from my religious beliefs.
Jehovah's Witnesses are in my neighborhood, and I've got 2 strategies for dealing with them. 1, tell them you're Jewish. That works real good. 2, invite them into the house to help you bleed a small puppy into the bathtub. It's good times.
Hail Satan!
I have never been cyberbullied for any of my identities. Wait, what?
Identities? Plural?
I was not bullied as a child for any of my identities.
Again, plural. Everyone gets bullied as a kid. It's what helps you grow up and find your position on the food chain. If you're not bullied as a kid, you're the bully.
I have never tried to distance myself from any of my identities.
Who am I, Jason Bourne? I don't even know what any of this shit means, so I'm just gonna say no.
I've never been self-conscious about any of my identities.
Everybody at some point in their life has been self-conscious about some aspect of their identity, singular.
I have never questioned any of my identities.
If you have multiple identities, you should be questioning yourself. You should be going to a psychologist, you should be taking the pills, and you should be going to therapy at least once a week.
I feel privileged because of the identities I was born with.
No, I don't. I really, really, really don't. All right, here we go. I'm gonna check my privilege. I'm 55 out of 100 points, so I am quite privileged.
You've had a few struggles, but overall your life has been far easier than most. This is not a bad thing, nor is it something to be ashamed of, but you should be aware of your advantages and work to help others who don't have them. Thank you for checking your privilege.
You know, if I was taking a math test and I got 55 out of 100, that's called a fail. I don't feel very privileged. I sure as hell don't feel quite privileged. You know what I feel? I feel enraged. I feel like every single one of these questions represents a brain cell that popped in my head like a 5-year-old playing with bubble wrap. I feel like I would rather dive face first into a pool filled with vaginal yeast. I feel like I would rather drink a shot glass filled with the pus that's squeezed from the pimples on Kanye West's asshole. This is repugnant, it's stupid, it's illogical, and it makes no sense. It fucking sucks, it sucking f***s, it fucking blows, it's a piece of shit, and I don't like it. The end. I gotta take a shit. Trust me, you don't want to be in here for this. And that's about all I got for you. So why don't you do me a favor? Links below, Patreon and PayPal. Send us a couple of bucks so we can keep doing this. Lots of ideas that we're gonna start flushing down the pipe until the shit comes out on your end. And while you're at it, please click on the subscribe button, because you should be grateful that I put myself through the misery of taking this bullshit quiz so you don't have to. Call it a privilege.
You dumbass! That's it right there, you piece of shit! Let's do it! Why are you not shooting?